Okay, hello everybody, and welcome from a hot and sunny Cyprus. I hope you're well this Friday, and thank you for those of you who have joined us for our webinar, focusing on the relocation of companies and employees to Cyprus. By way of introduction, my name is Simon Taylor, and I'm the Business Unit Head of Access Tax Accounting Limited, ATA, overseeing the day-to-day operations, and I am also a Director of ATA Cyprus and ATA Ireland. I have over 25 years of experience covering a plethora of local and international accounting and tax matters, stemming from the accounting of one-man bands through to assisting intermediaries and high net worth individuals with their international structures. Our aim for this session is to provide you with an overview of recent updates and implementations in Cyprus that are designed to further enhance the ease and benefits of doing business on the island. Before we begin, for those of you who may not already be clients of ATA, I'll provide a brief overview of our history. Originally founded in London, UK in June 2013 by our principal, Mr. Kevin Austin, ATA was formed as part of the wider Access Financial Group, headquartered in Switzerland, to focus its expertise on our clients' local and international accounting and tax planning affairs. Regulated by the Institute of Chartered Accountants in England and Wales, ATA built its reputation on ensuring compliance and the very high quality of work as paramount importance. Following a period of significant growth, we have expanded our footprint to offices in Dublin, Ireland, and to here in Limassol, Cyprus, to meet the needs of our clients and to support the engagement of our staff in both jurisdictions. The topics we will cover today are just some of the areas in which ATA can assist our clients in Cyprus. As a licensed administrative services provider under the remit of ICPAC, and through our alliances with trusted local law firms, we also offer a broader range of corporate services. I'm very glad to be joined today by my colleagues, Georgia Johnson, our in-house Cyprus immigration expert, and Andreas Karalandis, Director of ATA with myself, and a licensed certified public accountant in Cyprus. Finally, just before we begin, in order to ensure the free flow of the content that we are going to present, and obviously we don't want to take up all of your time today, we will not be answering questions live during the webinar. However, many queries will require a deeper analysis, and of course, we are happy to accept these queries by email or telephone from the contact details that we'll provide at the end. Now, with no further ado, I will hand you over to Georgia for the start of what we trust will be an interesting and worthwhile presentation on the relocation of companies and employees to Cyprus. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Okay, so basically we would like to start with an introduction on a new or refined Cyprus government approved strategy here in Cyprus as of 1st of October of last year. There has been a strategy for attracting business activities or expanding the activities of companies and businesses in Cyprus, with the creation of the Business Financial Unit, which came in force January of this year. The new system is clearly geared towards cementing the growing momentum businesses, basically managing headquarters and having the headquarters on the island, and to attract talented and highly skilled individuals. The aim of this webinar is to analyze this governmental action plan and give you a practical tools which we believe may help you to grow your business in Cyprus compliantly. So the new policy for employment of third country nationals. Although we had this policy in the past as well, the difference is now, as of the beginning of this year, is that companies which are registered a third country as foreign country interest can employ third country nationals unlimited, whereas before it used to be only a maximum of 15 highly skilled employees. Now it's unlimited. So as of the 1st of January 2022, this year, companies registered with the Business Facilitation Unit, the BFU, as foreign interest companies would be able to employ highly skilled third country nationals through the fast track process. Now, the main criteria for the employment of highly skilled third country nationals would be through the fast track scheme would basically be a minimum of salary of 2,500 and above, monthly gross salary. And the highly skilled third country nationals, of course, needs to provide a diploma or university degree, any type of university degree, or if they do not have, then at least a relevant experience. So basically like a reference letter of at least a minimum of 2 years experience in the field that they will be employed in Cyprus. So, and this is quite crucial and it's imperative in order to get the approval from the immigration at the end of the day. This is one of the things that they look for when you do the application. It's not just a simple applying for it. You need to make sure that you apply according to the criteria that the immigration is looking for and actually get the approval. I mean, that's the main point that we're trying to put out there. And also it's a minimum employment contract of 2 years up to 3 years. Now, as we said, it was unlimited. However, after 5 years of once you have registered as a foreign interest company, then with the immigration offices, then basically after 5 years, they would reevaluate your license, let's say, to be due than that. And in order for the criteria, in order for them to approve and continue, then they would need to see the total number of employees you have, of which 70% of the third country nationals, it cannot be 30% over the third country nationals cannot be more than 70%. So the 30% can be Cypriot or Europeans, but the criteria is basically third country nationals cannot exceed 70%, okay? The work permits also are issued within 1 month. Ideally, although nowadays there's been a few delays, but that is the aim for the government and immigration offices. They give themselves 1 month in order to get the approval. Now, when we submit the application, they usually get a receipt, and with this, they are actually able to work instantly until they get their permit card, which is in 1 month. And this can be valid from 2 to 3 years validity period, and then you need to have the options to actually extend for additional 2-year period. New policy for the employment of third country national, the changes introduced concerning the non-highly skilled personnel. So basically, if you want to employ a third country national, which is below the bracket of 2,500 per month gross salary, then you are able to. However, this only relies and is approved by the Ministry of Labour. So it's not just the immigration that needs to approve. First, the Ministry of Labour needs to approve this. And it's quite a lengthy process. You need to meet that criteria, advertise it in the local market, make sure there's no Cypriot or European that can be hired for this specific role. So the Ministry of Finance needs to, the Ministry of Labour needs to get all this information and get approved. And of course, it's much more longer period for you to go through this route rather than the fast track that we said earlier with highly skilled professionals. The other thing would be is that the employment for third country nationals for this bracket for support staff can only be cannot exceed 30% of all support staff of the company. Okay. And the duration, of course, is the same as the other one, which is basically a 2 to 3 year permit. Family reunification. Now, for highly skilled, This is automatically allowed for family reunification to be allowed for the spouses or family members to have a permit as well and have free access to the labor market once from the financial supporter, which is the highly skilled employee, which has obtained his or her work permit. And now this option, however, is not available for spouses of support staff, solely because the gross salary is less than 2,500 per month. So they are not eligible to have family reunification and assistance. Now, to register with the BFU, so the business financial unit is able to facilitate and approve a company to be eligible to be registered as a third country national employee, so for foreign interest companies. Now, eligible businesses meet one of the following criteria. So a majority of the company shares must be owned by a third country national. Now, it could be over 50% of the shares to be owned by third country national. However, in the event that there's third country national that owns either equals to or less than 50% of the total share, then the company can still be considered eligible if the foreign participation in the share capital presents an amount equivalent to or equals to 200,000 and above. And this needs to be approved with additional documentation that the authorities may be asking you for. Also, public companies registered on any recognized stock exchange, companies which were previously registered with central bank as for offshore entities. Also, Cypriot shipping companies are allowed. Cyprus high-tech innovation companies, Cypriot pharmaceutical companies, or Cypriot companies active in the fields of biogenetics and biotechnology. And also the majority of the share capital of company is ultimately owned by persons who require the Cypriot citizenship by naturalization based on economic criteria, provided that the conditions under which they were naturalized continue to be met. So basically, if there's an investor that's come in and has third country national and he's invested a large amount of money in order to do the naturalization in a company, then that's also can be eligible. Now, eligible businesses must also operate from independent offices in Cyprus, so they need to provide a rental agreement. It cannot be a house or any other private housing or other offices, except for the case of business cohabitation, which that's also allowed. So subleasing is also allowed. We would also highlight the fact that companies already registered with immigration as foreign interest company will not have to register again with the BFU. The policy still remains and continues for them as well. So when they had a minimum of 15 highly skilled employees, now they can have unlimited with no additional information required. Now, if the employees have been registered prior to this change and they were, let's say, below the 2,500 bracket, then they can continue to be, and with no need to increase their salary or anything like that, they can continue. And they have 5 years to have the same, so they can renew again with the same salary, no need to increase. However, if the employee ends up changing to another company entirely, then the 2,500 bracket will be in force. Okay. Now, another new thing, which is very good, we believe, is the digital nomad visa scheme. Now, this is an entirely new scheme, of which, again, in October, they decided with the ministry, approved the introduction of digital nomad visa scheme in Cyprus, which initially was only to approve 100 permits to be issued, but since March of this year, they have increased it to 500. for these type of visa. Now, this is an entirely new type of residence visa, which is available for non-EU and non-EEA country nationals that are self-employed or salaried employed, working remotely with employers or clients outside of Cyprus, and this is the key. It cannot provide any services in Cyprus whatsoever. It has to be outside. Through the use of course, computers, the technology that we have nowadays, where it's so easy for people to work remotely. It gives the right to holders to stay in Cyprus up to a year, with the right to renew for another additional years. Now, that's the maximum they can have. They're not able to change for more years unless, of course, they change the type of permit. Digital nomad's family can reside in Cyprus for the same period of a digital nomad, without the right, though, to be employed or perform any economic activities in Cyprus. As opposed to the highly skilled before, actually families are also allowed to work with the highly skilled. Once they do the family reunification, they are able to go and work in the market as well. Whereas the digital nomad, they will not. The same type of rules applies to the actual sponsor of the digital nomad visa, also applies to the family members. The holder of a digital nomad visa and their spouse will be considered a tax resident of Cyprus if they reside in Cyprus for more one or more period in total of 183 days within the same tax year, provided they are not tax resident in any other country. The main precondition that will need to be met for successful applications for a digital nomad visa is that, of course, as we stated before, perform work remotely through telecommunication technology. They can be employed in a company registered abroad, for which they can work location independently, or are self-employed, offering services remotely for clients allocated abroad. Evidence that he or she has sufficient funds, stable income to cover living expenses during the stay in Cyprus without resources to the national social welfare system. The amount for sufficient funds is set to 3,500 per month, and that's net, not gross as we had with the highly skilled. So basically what they need to provide is employment contract, clearly stating that the foreign country, foreign employer, and they will check if this company is any link to Cyprus services. So it definitely has to be shown that it is from abroad in order to get a favorable outcome and decision of approval of the actual permit. Or he can provide services. So it's basically a service level agreement with any clients, one or many, that he has from abroad. And stating, of course, that he is able to do his work remotely, and that the total number of income, net income, would be 3,500. They will need a bank statement showing his constant flow. So he can be in Cyprus, if it's a person that is allowed to be in Cyprus with 90 days free visa. I mean, of course, he'll be constantly working even from abroad. So when he comes here, they should be able to see a bank statement. It doesn't have to be a local one, wherever their bank is. They need to see a constant flow of income of at least minimum of 3,500. Now, in the event that it is not possible for applicant to either provide a bank statement or other evidence verifying the net monthly income, then they will need to make a responsible declaration confirming that their monthly stable net income is not below the minimum threshold required for a successful applicant for a digital nomad. The net monthly amount is 3,500, is increased by 20% for any accompanying spouses and 15% for each accompanying minor. Other indicative supporting documents to an application for a digital nomad visa would be medical examination, police clearance, which these are usually what's required as well for the highly skilled. Another important highlight in the digital nomad application is that upon its filing with the Immigration Department in the relevant receipt issued by the Immigration Department, the applicant the right to live in Cyprus until the application is examined. Such period examination ranges between 5 to 7 weeks. So basically, as we said again, once we usually apply here in Cyprus, we receive a receipt, which then allows them to be in Cyprus, reside in Cyprus. If it's a working visa, it'll be a working visa. If it's a visitor, it's the same. But they're allowed instantly to be reside with no problems until the card is actually issued, and then that takes a few more weeks or months in order to actually get the final permit card. But it doesn't stop them from doing the work that they are and being legally here in Cyprus. Well, that's it about for me. From me, thank you very much for your time. I will hand you over to Andreas Charalambos to give you the rest of the presentation. Thank you very much.
Hi everyone, my name is Andreas Charalambos. I'm the Director of Access Tax Accounting Cyprus. Let me thank you as well for joining our webinar for today. Our target is to offer webinars from time to time so that we can keep people up to date with several tax changes, amendments, and so on. So you can follow our page on LinkedIn for the latest tax updates, or visit our website on www.accesstaxaccounting.com. So let's forward to the next topic we will cover. The permanent residency permit, the fast track. I will say it's the most important one. So up to March 2021, only the investors who are interested in investing in residential properties in Cyprus will consider the permanent residence permit. However, during March 2021, some new investment options were introduced by the Tax Department of Cyprus. So, if a third country national investor and applicant may proceed with an investment of at least 300,000 euros in one of the following categories, the first option will be purchase of 1 or 2 new residential properties in Cyprus with a total purchase cost of at least 300,000 euros, excluding VAT, that's important. And at least 200,000 euros of the purchase cost must be settled during the application stage with funds from abroad. Another option will be purchase of new or resale commercial real estate, purchase of the shares of a Cyprus company with activities and staff in Cyprus, i.e. an existing company, or purchase of units of the Cyprus investment organization of collecting investments. However, please be aware that an investor shall also pay VAT. The standard rate currently is 19%. However, if the property will be one of residential purposes, the reduced rate of 5% applies. However, there are some limitations that after some specific square meters, the VAT rate turns to 19 and so on. And also note that it is not possible to invest in resale property. In addition, the investor should open and maintain a fixed deposit in a local Cyprus bank of a minimum of 50,000 euros for 3 consecutive years. The investor should also have a secure and steady income of 30,000 euros per annum deriving from abroad. And this amount increases by 5,000 euros for each dependent family member and by 8,000 euros for each dependent parent or parent of the spouse. The income may be from overseas employment, pensions, interest on fixed deposits, or rents from abroad. Also, the investor must hold a clean criminal record from the country of residence or origin and not constitute a threat against public order or security in Cyprus. Also, it is vital to visit Cyprus at least once every 2 years to avoid the automatic cancellation of the permanent residency permit. In cases of investment in non-residential options, the applicant needs a residential property in Cyprus, either owned or rented. Under the terms of the permanent residence program, the applicant must have a permanent address of registration in Cyprus. Next, once the completed application has been submitted to the authorities, a decision is reached within 2 months. In case of a breach of any requirement condition, the permit shall be revoked for the investor and the family. It is important to keep in mind that holders of a permanent residency permit are not permitted to work in Cyprus. However, in case of investment in the share capital of a Cyprus company, the investor and the spouse of the investor may hold the position of director of the company in which they invested 300,000 euros. Investment of Cyprus, or investment of euro 300,000 is in the share capital of a Cyprus company and the main benefits. Although we have said that we will not accept any live questions, I am sure that most of you will ask, why would a third country national investor and applicant make an investment of 300,000 euros in the share capital of a Cyprus company when they may, by registering a Cyprus company which will be owned by more than 50% by third country nationals, and by obtaining the approval of the BFU, as Georgia said before, to proceed to employ third country nationals with no obligation to make a cash investment from abroad? The answer is quite straightforward. An investor who invests 300,000 euros in the share capital of a Cyprus company will obtain a permanent residency permit, and such permit does not need to be renewed. And as discussed, the only application is to visit Cyprus at least one every 2 years, to avoid the automatic cancellation of the permanent residency permit. Another benefit offered to investors who choose to invest 300,000 euros in the share capital of a Cyprus company as opposed to investing in residential properties is that such applicants are allowed to provide evidence that the annual income they have euro 300,000 emanates from sources within Cyprus and not abroad. Although we have the fast track, we also have the slow track of permanent residency permit. The main differences between the two schemes is that the slow track procedure takes approximately 1-2 years to complete. However, there is no minimum real estate investment requirements. Applicants must have at their disposal a secure legal annual income high enough to allow them to live decently in Cyprus without having to engage in any business, trade, or profession. This income must come from legal sources from abroad, i.e. pension, permanent disposal, rental, ownership of companies, shares, etc. Of course, no criminal activities, and it will be at least 9,600 euros annually, plus 4,620 euros per dependent. The investor is required to purchase a residence in Cyprus within 1 year from the approval of the application. A permanent residency permanent permit has a 5-year duration and it is renewable. And in case you want to reside in Cyprus while this is in process by the authorities, then a temporary visitor's permit will need to be applied until your permanent permit has been approved and issued. So it's up to you to decide which track to follow. Another new initiative imposed by the Ministry of Finance is Cyprus citizenship by naturalization. So far, in order to apply for a naturalization, you had to wait for 7 years. However, currently, someone has the right to apply for the Cyprus citizenship by naturalization after 5 years of residence and working in the Republic of Cyprus. In case this individual has a good knowledge of the Greek language, the duration will be reduced to 4 years instead of 5. So this is promising, I will say. However, please note that the above changes are subject to final approval by the government of Cyprus, it is yet to be voted by the parliament. The current legislation, though, is that foreign nationals who have completed 7 years of legal residence in the Republic of Cyprus, 2,555 days, it's an easy number to remember, are eligible to apply for citizenship. In cases, though, of foreign nationals who are either parents of children of Cypriot citizens, the time required is 5 years instead of 7. In both cases, though, the applicant must have resided legally and continuously in Cyprus during the 12 months prior to the date of application. The same 5 years period requirement applies to holders of the permanent residency status or successful applicants of Cyprus residency by investment program. And how to apply? The applicant needs to prepare a full list of entries and departures from Cyprus based on passport stamps, which should confirm the above required days of stay. Each family member has to file a separate application and pay the required fee, which currently is 500 euros per application. Next, there is the introduction of new tax incentives that I can admit very, let's say, beneficial incentives for the eligible people. So in further bid to enhance the benefits for existing and new international companies and groups to establish, expand, or relocate their headquarters in Cyprus, an improved tax incentive scheme was approved by the Cabinet of Ministers on the 10th of May 2022. However, as said, the bill has been sent to the Parliament. It will come into force after it is approved by the deputies. So, under the previous scheme, non-Cyprus residents working in Cyprus and earning more than 100,000 euros per year could benefit from a tax exemption of 50% of their employment income for the first 10 years of their employment. Just to repeat, 50% deduction of employment income, not 50% deduction on tax due. The new scheme expands this and it reduces the 100,000 euros threshold, let's say, to 55,000 euros per year. And the exception will be extended to 17 years instead of 10 years of employment. In addition, a new employee whose initial wage starts below the minimum annual salary of 55,000 euros will be entitled to a grace period of up to 2 years to meet the qualifying criteria of the scheme. Existing employees with a salary below 55,000 euros will have a grace period of 6 months. Current employees earning more than 55,000 euros who resided abroad for 12 consecutive years before moving to and commencing their employment in Cyprus can also benefit from the improved incentives of the new scheme, which will be applied retrospectively. So as said, it is an excellent incentives. Another topic we will discuss in shortly, not to keep you your time for Friday, the third anti-tax avoidance directive, 88D3, and its potential impact on Cyprus headquartering. On the 22nd of December 2021, the European Commission published a legislative proposal for a directive to be issued, the third anti-tax avoidance directive, in short, 88D3, which sets forth the rules to prevent the misuse of shell companies for tax purposes. The directive should be adopted early 2022 by the Council and be implemented by Member States by 13 June 2023, the latest. The provision should subsequently be effective in all Member States from the 1st of January 2024. The directive lays down a uniform test that will help the Member States identify undertakings that are engaged in economic activity but which do not have minimal substance and are misused for the purpose of obtaining tax advantages. Once these minimum substance requirements are not met, the undertaking will be classified as a shell entity and will sustain certain adverse tax consequences. The above is extremely relevant information to Cyprus registered companies, which are tax residents of Cyprus but do not meet the minimum substance requirements. Just to assist you a little further, when we say substance requirements, apparently an entity in Cyprus must have employees, because a company cannot provide the services without employees, must rent or own a business property, have a local directors with permanent address in Cyprus, and so on. This is from my side. Thank you so much. I will pass you over to Simon Taylor for the final part of the presentation. Thank you so much once again.
Just like to say thank you very much for all of the participants today for spending your time with us, and also a big thank you to my colleagues Georgia and Andreas making their webinar debuts today. There was some quite technical information that we were going through, and if any further clarification is required, we're more than happy to do that on a one-to-one basis. As for ATA and how we can assist you further, please take a look at the website. Our core services are with the setup, relocation of companies and employees to Cyprus. We offer an employer of record services, undertaking the salary and local compliance matters for any employees you may wish to locate here. Of course, we have the standard company formation business in Cyprus, the UK, Ireland, Belgium, Sweden, Switzerland, and the Netherlands. Residency and immigration services, we can cover outsourced payroll and accounting according to your business needs. Very much involved in the Cyprus and international tax planning. Andreas is a holder of the ADIT Advanced Diploma in International Taxation. Substance solutions, as we've just touched on, and trust, VAT planning, and audit services. It's been very nice having you today. Before we go, there is one important point I'd like to mention. It is highlighted on the slide. Several of the services we offer are through our network of accredited professionals, whether they be lawyers or associates. So we observe everything that needs to be observed to provide you with the best service possible. That's it from us today. Enjoy the rest of your Friday. Do have a good weekend. And if you have any queries, we're here to help. Thank you very much.